We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
The distance from Switzerland to the surface of the moon is approximately 384,399 kilometers. Yet for the Speedmaster, this was just another step in an extraordinary odyssey that has spanned over half a century, with more than 100 space missions, 2 polar expeditions, and 1 miraculous orbital re-entry watched by almost 60 million people. Omega invites you to revisit those great moments in time that tested the limits of physical endurance and defined modern history. The motto of the Apollo 13, Ex Luna Scientia, from the moon, knowledge. The Speedmaster's third lunar mission launched successfully from the Kennedy Space Center at the ominous time of 1313 hours. The first 2 days of the outward journey passed smoothly until 55 hours, 54 minutes, and 53 seconds into the mission on the 13th day of the month, when an electrical failure during a routine oxygen stir caused a crippling explosion. Moments later, pilot Jack Swigert radioed down to Mission Control. "Houston, we've had a problem here." In truth, Apollo 13 had several problems, all of them critical. Fleeing the crippled command module, the crew evacuated to the tiny Aquarius lunar module to conserve power, fabricating a makeshift filter to absorb poisonous levels of CO2. "5 hours and 37 minutes after the explosion, the crew fired an engine burn to obtain the free return trajectory required to slingshot the spacecraft around the moon. Finally, Mission Control calculated it would require exactly 14 seconds of engine boost to angle the shuttle for re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. Despite condensation, freezing temperatures, and zero gravity, the crew's Speedmasters did not fail them. With a multi-million-dollar computer system lying useless, the Speedmaster proved lucky for Apollo 13, delivering 14 exact seconds, 3 astronauts, and invaluable scientific research back to Earth.
That same aerospace industry that could so inspire the people of Earth shattered our confidence and broke our hearts in an instant on January 28th, 1986. Few who watched the Challenger disaster live will ever forget that moment as the magnificent ship exploded and dropped into the sea. In the weeks that followed, sorrow turned to rage as the true causes of the disaster became known. The immediate cause was a white-hot flame that burned through the side of a rocket motor. A puff of smoke is visible here as the burn-through begins. Only seconds later in the flight, the hot flare is clearly visible, burning through the side of the rocket motor. Like a blowtorch, the flare burned through the main fuel tank, igniting the liquid oxygen and hydrogen inside in a spectacular explosion. The flare had started at a joint in the rocket motor, a joint sealed with rubber O-rings. NASA and its contractors had evidence that the rocket motor O-rings could fail below 53 degrees Fahrenheit. But NASA had already launched shuttles below 53 degrees and gotten away with it.
Just because you got lucky doesn't mean the risk is reduced. And sure enough, the risks were still there, and the statistics caught up with them.
On January 28th, 1986, NASA decided to go ahead with the shuttle launch at only 36 degrees. There was solid ice all over the launch pad. Engineers involved with the O-rings did everything they could to stop the launch.
On the 4th or 5th time they pushed the envelope, sure enough, almost exactly at the temperatures they said. Those O-rings blew apart. And the tragedy of that is that besides the tragic souls lost on the Challenger themselves, there were people on the ground who warned about it, who were so upset about it, and who to this day are destroyed because they knew about it, tried to warn, and they were dismissed.